and this is something that maybe people don't know, because a lot of England and the English FA and are sort of given the, and they've branded themselves, right, as the originators of the sport.
I was gonna say they take the credit.
Yeah, but and okay, people might say yes, they codified the game. They put laws to it and all that. That's fine. They can say that, and I get that's written down somewhere. But here's my point. In that book, what I found really interesting was, number one, yes, England, put the laws of the game together, but in terms of the way that the game is played in application, it was actually Scotland that had a more progressive style in terms of passing the ball. Because what used to happen, and Jonathan Wilson in this book details this really well in the beginning, he talks about how the game has always been so tribal, right? So in England, you would literally have like villages of sometimes 60, 70 people on each side, and sometimes more. And they would have a ball and they would have two targets, and they would just be literally kind of like going at each other, going to war. And the game in England was always sort of this brute style of playing, right? And if we're honest, a lot of these things still remain in the English psyche of playing the game, right? The concept of the hard-nosed center back, the concept of not messing around with it in the back and getting it long. And these things are still with us, right? So these are cycles. And so it was interesting to me to read that when I read it the first time, and I didn't know. And just so for me, that dispelled this certain myth, right? Not that necessarily England wasn't responsible for, again, originating, the laws of the game, but just that in terms of like a style that I vibe with more of passing and combinations, it was another country. And that leads me, my final point that I'll make is, for example, when Robert talks about futsal being the number one sport in Brazil, again, we're talking about, so for me, the magic of football is not even in the modern day, like official FIFA rules of it. To me, I feel like this game, and this is documented, people have played a form of this game for time, right?
Mm-hmm, for sure.
In ancient Asian civilizations,
Yep.
in ancient American, if you want to call it American civilizations, they've played a game that was essentially about exploiting space and using an object to then penetrate some zone or target of the opponent. Now that's essentially what football is, right? Now we just use our feet. So to me, the game has kind of always been with us, and it's a very beautiful expression of the human reality, the human condition, in my opinion. And it's the only, like my last point, it's interesting that it's the only sport, the only team sport where, and somebody else, I don't take credit for this point, a good friend and coach that I think is a really intelligent thinker made this point. His name is David Garcia, by the way. He's on Twitter, and he does some good stuff. It's just a sport is his Twitter handle. But he mentioned that in a Twitter post that, football is the only sport where you move the primary object of the game, the ball, with the same limbs as you're running with, right? You're running with your legs, but you're also responsible for moving that object with your legs. There's no other sport that can claim that, no other team sport that can claim that.